You need to develop your style as a photojournalist. When you're out on an assignment, it is important that you research, plan, and prepare for the assignment. Also, many times we think that as photojournalists, we don't control the lighting and we shoot only in the natural light. Let's hear Prashant Panjiar share his insights and experiences on all of these.
Again, this is a very interesting question because photographers in general, and of course photojournalists, but photographers in general make the mistake of choosing interesting subjects, interesting in inverted commas. I mean, this is the kind of eternal quest of the photographer to find subjects, projects to work on, right? And they are always looking for, again, like in inverted commas, interesting subjects. And the mistake that for many years photographers have been making is to go after looking for interesting subjects rather than looking at what they are interested in. So there's I think for photographers and photojournalists, it's very important not to just go after what they consider a very exotic or very, sexy project, but rather something that is they are actually interested in, because then only they will be able to complete it and to give it the attention that they will require. There used to be a saying in photojournalism that you're not good enough unless you're close enough to a subject. Closeness to a subject can be defined not necessarily as just getting close to them, but something that you know well also, you understand well. And in today's world, you don't have to go running off to the Pacific Islands to find a primitive tribal group that will bring you some great interesting images when the best story could be right in your backyard. So that is a very, very important thing. First, choose a subject that you're interested in. Next, how do you prepare to work on a project? The first step always in working on a photo project is research. You must know what you're doing and the background of it. And the research is not just of finding out more about that subject, but maybe at times even going back and looking at how other photographers in the past have dealt with the same subject, because you don't want to be reinventing the wheel. Most photographers don't realize that many subjects that they choose have been worked on by great photographers before. It's not to say that you should never do it again, but in every age people will repeat subjects, but you could learn from what they've done before and try to break new ground. So research is first. The next I would call by a simple word, immersion. Immerse yourself in the subject, which means that when you go out to shoot, you are really immersing yourself in that story. You're allowing reality to act upon you, to condition you, to change your preconceived notions. And while you're photographing, interacting with people, you're learning more. And therefore, then to take that from step by step and then produce, and because of that you'll be producing a work that is much better and more wholesome. Once you've been through the process of research, immersion, photographing, absorbing the reality, you will be ending up with a huge or large set of images and information related to that. And now you have to edit the work to put together your photo project in a publishable form photo project or a photo essay or a photo feature or a gallery in a website. All these are the published forms. So there, the narrative, if it is since it's a sequence of images, a narrative is very important. Just like in writing, you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So do you out here also? You have to choose how do you introduce your your project, and it will differ depending upon the medium. If it's a website, it's a gallery. The viewer clicks through, say, 10 or 12 images, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. In a magazine, a viewer flips pages. So there's a different dynamic. And according to the dynamic, you have to edit your work. How will text be used with it? That's another consideration. It's very important to keep those factors in mind and keep a narrative in mind, so that the whole sequence of images makes a coherent sense, and at the end, when a viewer sees that whole sequence, he or she understands this complete story. So coming from there, building our own personal style. Building our own personal style is not something that happens automatic. It's not something that can happen by technique or something. It happens over a period of time where you understand how you react to situations. Style can be learnt, style can be copied, but that will never be a true style unless, in the beginning when most photographers start out, and almost we copy other photographers, which is natural. There's nothing wrong in that. But your own style will come out of your understanding and your learning and your experience. So don't be in a hurry to start putting an individual style. Especially in photojournalism, it will happen. Let it happen automatically and more, subconsciously. At the same time, working consciously on a style, once you start understanding how you react to situations and how you react to reality and how you want to portray that is important. I would come back, as far as style is concerned, it is an understanding again of starting to pay attention to how you photograph, And with that, of course, if you are able to answer the question of why you're photographing something and how you're photographing something, I think your style will emerge from there. See, in photojournalism now, with the advancement of technology and digital technology, most cameras can handle very low light and very dark situation, as well as shooting in the night as shooting in the day. So the older days when you were shooting on film, and there were a lot of limitations on how you can shoot in the indoors and outdoors, and you had to plan. Today you don't need to plan so much, but from artistic considerations and from compositional or the idea, the way that you want to tell your story, those considerations might come in when you decide whether you want to light a situation or you don't want to light a situation. And whether you light a situation, whether indoors or outdoors, with any kind of light, is not an ethical question. It is more a question of an artistic or a question of how you want the pictures to look, and it's felt very acceptable within photojournalism to use lights in situations, especially with portraiture, interiors, because the other thing at this point, I should sort of bring to the notice of most people that photojournalism cannot be defined any longer in its narrow terms of press or news photography only. photojournalism today is part of a larger group of what you would call editorial and documentary photography. So a fashion magazine is also an editorial product. A lifestyle magazine or an architecture magazine, anything that is and photographers and photojournalists may be working across such phenomenon. What distinguishes photojournalism from other kinds of say fashion, etc., is that in photojournalism you're photographing things as they are, whereas in other forms of photography you may be allowed to set things up. That's the only difference. But a photojournalist today works both as a photojournalist, as an editorial photographer, and as a documentary photographer. And therefore, the question of lighting will be dependent upon the kind of situation and what you're photographing. So, preparing for working indoors with the kind of assignment that you're doing is what you should be concerned about, whether you want to use lights and what kind of light you want to use. The limitation is not limited anymore to your camera, but it is more an artistic choice now.
How important it is to be mindful and aware and be in the present moment. Again and again, we hear these eternal truths. Pay attention to the photograph, immerse yourself in the moment and the experience, and be open so that the moment can act on you. I hope that you enjoyed listening to Prashant Panjiar. We'll be back soon in the next video.